Okay, here we are. We are at the Ramona Tea Party, and we the people. I'm going to be entering at this part.
He's been a brave voice for conservative issues, particularly the issues of illegal immigration, but today he's going to join us to talk about the fairness doctrine. Please give a warm welcome to Rodger Hedgecock.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for being here. Thank you, Jim Tapscott, for inviting me today. A long time ago, Jim called me, and he said, to the effect, he was a caller to the program, and he said to the effect, well, all this is all well and good, but in Balboa Park, at Inspiration Point, facing downtown, there's a bunch of very wealthy homosexual guys in Lexuses and Mercedes and so forth who troll down this point on the road there and pick up little Mexican boys who are provided by illegal alien pimps. What are you going to do about it? These kinds of challenges I love. Several hundred of us, inspired by Jim Tapscott, went up to Inspiration Point and kept demonstrating against these old guys, exploiting these young kids, because the politically correct police wouldn't do anything about it. The politically correct police and the politically correct administration of our city wouldn't do anything about it. So we, the people, did something about it, and we drove them out of the park. Nice. I'm just thrilled to see all of you here today, because in every little place like this, all over the country, a lot of us have decided that it's time to stand up and do something to reclaim our country. Somebody else isn't going to do it. The assumptions we've carried around in our heads since elementary school about what America is are out of date. America's changing, and it's not for the better. Bob pointed out, and I want to get to this in the topic, the fact that the liberal ruling elite simply can't handle the fact that talk radio is a place where we, the people, actually get together and discuss the fact that we don't think that the school district in Massachusetts was correct in providing condoms to 6-year-olds in the elementary school. We just don't think that's right. And they're, of course, appalled. The superintendent of that school district in Provincetown, in P-Town as they call it in Massachusetts, the superintendent of that school believes to this moment that kids are going to have sex anyway, and what we ought to be doing is providing these condoms. It's a public safety, it's a public health issue. These people are that crazy. We are that committed to change them. Those kinds of people do not deserve to be in public education. They must be gone. Where else have you heard, other than on talk radio, that the Obamacare health reform included in it the concept that if you're old and you need a surgery of any kind, the cost of that can be measured against the value of your statistical remaining years, and if it's too much, you can be deprived of it? Where else did you hear that cap and trade was a notion of saving the planet that included increasing your utility rates by, according to the Department of Water and Power in LA, 28%? They're down by a factor of 2, but let's just give them the 28%. Where else did you hear? Where else did you hear that in the Gulf of Mexico, the BP oil spill coincided with an investment by George Soros in the Brazilian oil company, Petrobras, thank you. This is Saturday, I'm not quite up to speed, okay? It's Monday through Fridays when I have this down.
This is only standing room left.
and that our government lent $2 billion of stimulus money to this Brazilian oil company in order, apparently, in order that George Soros would be able to drill in very deep water off Brazilian coast and tap into the riches of the earth there, something that is now not possible in the Gulf of Mexico because 33 of those deep water rigs are now off limits. And oh, by the way, those rigs, since they're not busy, since the moratorium, thank God for the judge stopping this, but since the moratorium was announced, Brazil wanted, of course, to get a fair share of those rigs, moved down to Brazil so that Petrobras and George Soros could make the money. Where else do you hear this stuff? Do you get on CBS News at night and hear this? NBS, ABS, PBS, any of these BS stations, do you have any of them? Are there any of them that tell the truth about this stuff? No. And that's why, as Bob said, the FCC is now equipped with people appointed by our president who are dedicated to the notion, well, a couple of different notions. Let me name them. Number one, they're dedicated to the notion that the only reason Air America failed, the only reason that liberal talk radio doesn't take off, the only reason you don't listen to PBS, the only reason that's happening is because corporate greed. Now let me guide you on this because I know it isn't apparent to you just right off the top that there's a connection, but there is in their mind. And the connection is this. Those big corporate bigwigs are all conservatives.
Oh, sure.
Of course they are. They're fat cats. All conservatives are fat cats. All fat cats are conservatives. They all are in the Republican Party, blah, blah, blah. So, for instance, Clear Channel owns a whole bunch of radio stations, 8 of them in San Diego County. And they're run by the Mays family down in Texas. They're conservatives, so obviously they shut out Air America and never give them a chance. The actual fact is, ladies and gentlemen, that Clear Channel demanded that one of those 8 channels be turned over to Air America in San Diego. And if you remember, this experiment went on for a couple of years. Randy Rhodes and who's that guy who became a senator, and Al Franken, and all those crazy people were on the air. And they got people listening to them, some. And those people who listened to them had a problem. And the problem was this. They couldn't attract any advertisers. None of those people who listened had any money. Or they were buying illegal stuff. I don't know, but they weren't buying anything that you could, support the commercial enterprise of a radio station. That's why they failed. They failed in the old-fashioned way that they didn't get enough listeners, and the listeners they got were not supportive of the advertisers who were on the program. Just as simple as that. They failed in the marketplace. If the iPod came out in the marketplace and 5 people bought it and they threw it away because it didn't work, it wouldn't be a phenomenal success. That company would go out of business. Air America went out of business. Their product stunk. And so they had to run and get subsidized, like all stinky products do. Stinky products need to get subsidized. This is the kind of talk you do not hear anymore in any of the other media. You don't read it in the newspapers. I stopped reading newspapers. I feel so much better.